You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
The Rays a prime opportunity here, two aboard, nobody out.
And a shot up the right side back into the corner. Here comes Smith to tie it. Martinez hitting third. Linares will wave him home. Rays are going to win. Safe at the plate. And the Rays scored two in the 10th. On the shot up the right side by Kiermaier, it's a 6-5 final.
And Michael Perez, now doing the catching, will come on for his first at bat. And a base hit into right field. Rays are going to win it. Lau scores on the single into right by Michael Perez. It's a 4-3 Rays victory, and they take 3 of 4 from New York. And Kevin Kiermaier will come off the Rays bench to bat for Brauso. And a base hit lined into left. That drops in front of Gurriel Jr., and the Rays are going to win it. Margot scores, and the Rays win in 10. It's a 2-1 final. Kiermaier on the first pitch walks it off, and the Rays win in 10. Brandon Lau entered as a pinch hitter in the 8th. Here it is. And a fly ball back into center field. That's going to be caught by Marte. No chance. The tag at third. Phillips scores, and the Rays win it in 10. Sacrifice fly to center off the bat of Brandon Lau. Phillips scores from third, and the Rays with 2 in the bottom of the 10th win this one 5-4.
It's 2 on with 2 out, and the Rays are going to ask for the biggest hit in the life of Brett Phillips. Jansen, that is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles, but the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports. I'm your host, Larry Frank, and what an incredible show we have for you this evening here on Frankly Speaking Sports. For all of you folks that are listening on several different platforms, we got a lot to go over today. In about 25 minutes, we're going to have former Major League pitcher pitch for the Cubs, pitch for the Mets, pitch for the Devil Rays. We're going to go ahead and have Steve Trachsel on. That's right, Steve Trachsel, former Tampa Bay Ray. If you can please go ahead, share this to your timeline, ask all your friends to join in. We got an incredible show for you. We're going to be talking a little bit of lightning to start off with, and then we're going to be primarily talking about the Tampa Bay Rays. Got a lot to go over about the Tampa Bay Rays. Lots of good things, and then we got some things I want to go over about the projections that are being made in the AL East, and which I think is from what I'm hearing, and the projections, which I take with a grain of salt, I think is a load of BS. But I want to welcome everyone here today, everyone that's listening on Northeast Streaming Sports, everybody that's listening on Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and of course our Frankly Speaking Sports platforms all over Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us today. And to go ahead and, let me go ahead and move that out of the way. That way we're in sync here. I want to go ahead and before we get to the Rays and a lot of stuff to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays, let's talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning. For those of you that have not heard, the game in Dallas tomorrow will be canceled. It is not due to COVID, but it is due to inclement weather, all the snowstorm that's going on in Texas and everything. Just bad weather, bad ice, a lot of power outages, lots of weather conditions that are not conducive for them to be playing. Also tonight, we were expected to have two guests on with us today, Pedro Babon Jr., who will not make it this evening because he is in those storms. We are going to reschedule Pedro for later next week. We already have that confirmed, but due to the weather, he has no power where he lives in Texas. We completely understand that, and our best goes out to his family during this difficult time in the Texas area, and for that matter, for all those people who are suffering from the weather conditions across the South over there. But we will have Steve Trachsel, former Major League pitcher, who also pitched for your Tampa Bay Rays. And boy, is it a treat tonight if you are a Tampa Bay fan. But as far as the Lightning go, unfortunately, the other night, as we were leaving the air on Monday, they did lose 6-4. Alexander Volkov, who scored his first goal of the year when we played the Panthers, scored two more goals. Tyler Johnson with another goal, and Steve Stamkos. The Panthers actually struck. It was that second period in that game. And I don't know what it is about the second period with this Tampa Bay Lightning team. I don't know if they just get too lax to what, but after playing a tough 1-1 first period, they gave up 3 unanswered goals to the Lightning to start off the second period and fell behind and was never able to come back in that game. The Bolts were 0 for 4 on the power play, so that power play wasn't working. And remember, Vasilevsky was not in goal. Curtis Michelini was in goal, and he only had 21 shots on him, but 15 of those shots went in the net. So not a great showing by the Tampa Bay Lightning, who lost 2 out of 3 to the Panthers. And right now, both of them are fighting for position for first place in this new division. And right now, I'll tell you what, don't take the Panthers as a joke. They are very, very much, in this thing. And they showed the Lightning, in this series, this 2 out of 3 games they played, that they were the better team, and they won. And Lightning are just going to have to regroup, get together, and play some good hockey. So that's as far as our Lightning news goes for you all. But we're going to talk about a lot of Tampa Bay Rays news tonight. If you are a Tampa Bay Rays fan, camp's open today. That's right, pitchers and catchers reported. If you are a baseball fan, it's time to get fired up. I am so fired up for spring training. It is unbelievable. And today, the Rays are making noise. 3 different acquisitions today. Listen to this. They made 2 trades and signed a free agent today. They traded catching prospect Ronaldo Hernandez and a minor league infielder Nick Sogard to the Boston Red Sox for 2 more pitchers. Left-hander Jeffrey Springs and right-hander Chris Mazza. And let me tell you what, you talk about a team that is beefing up on pitching. That's the Tampa Bay Rays. 2 more pitchers, and then they went ahead and traded away one of their pitchers, John Curtis, to the Marlins for first base prospect Evan Edwards. Now, they also re-signed Oliver Drake, who will be out the first half of the season. That's right, but they re-signed him to get him back about halfway point in July, which is the time of year where you're going to need a little bit more pitching depth. So great job by them today. If you're not familiar with the 2 guys from the Red Sox, Both of them have some major league experience. Spring is more of a sinker ball and a changeup style pitcher, where this guy Chris Mazza, has a 5-pitch arsenal. He has a cutter, slider, sinker, 4-seam, and a changeup. So 2 more pitches for them. And I'll tell you what, this is a team that is very rich on pitching. And, when I look at different things in the American League East, when you look at this team, and we broke down this team for you, and we told you how great, they re-signed Zunino. They got Mejia, who, let me tell you something about Francisco Mejia. For those of you folks that don't know about Francisco, he comes over from San Diego, but he was a very highly rated prospect a couple of years ago. And, that doesn't change. It's just that the San Diego Padres, for some reason, were not able to get the most out of his ability. And this is an unbelievable prospect for the Tampa Bay Rays in the catching position to go ahead with, playoff hero Mike Zunino, who showed that he was ready to play. And watch out for Zunino this year. He has nothing to worry about this year. His baby was born. His baby is healthy. Him and his wife are doing great. They love the area. This is going to be a great team. Want to welcome Eric from Gainesville. Want to welcome Tommy from Temple Terrace. Also, all the other fans that are on today. In about 20 minutes, we're going to have Steve Trachsel, former Major League pitcher, who pitched for the Tampa Bay Rays, the Chicago Cubs, the New York Mets. We have a call-in number. You want to talk some Rays baseball? Spring training's here, baby. Let's talk some spring training baseball. Get fired up. Give us a call. 813-922-9810. Once again, 813-922-9810. We'll get you on the line. We'll be more than happy to talk some Rays baseball or anything else you want to talk sports related. We are here to help answer your questions, but we'd love to get your feedback. And, we're going to talk about a subject now. And we were talking about the Rays. I was just talking a little bit about that catcher. But, I'm looking at these projections in the AL East, and you want to talk about getting a little pissed off, getting a little upset, getting a little irate. I tend not to listen to projections before the year, before the season started. Just look what happened in football. A lot of people were not planning on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl, all the predictors and all the models out there. Of course, what we do, we proved them wrong. A lot of people weren't picking the Tampa Bay Rays last year to go to the World Series. What happened? They did. Again, everybody proven wrong. So we take those with a grain of salt. They want to keep, knocking us for whatever reason it is. Screw those media people. But when I look at this team and I look at this Rays team, I feel that this is the best team by far in the American League East. No if, and, or buts. They have by far the best starting pitching, the best relief pitching in the league. Some people can argue about their offense, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, but let's go ahead and break down this pitching first. And I'd love to get some feedback, and I got some Tampa Bay Rays fans on the line here. Call us at 813-922-9810 or leave a comment under the comment section. Love to get your feedback. But, right now, this Petco or whatever the hell the name of this company that projects Major League Baseball is picking that the Yankees have an 81% chance of winning the American League East. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Rays only have an 11% chance and the Blue Jays a 7%. Let's go ahead. Let's break this down into wins. They're picking the Yankees to go 97-65 this year to win the American League East. They're picking the Rays to be, it looks like from this, 86-76, which means they would be 11 games behind the New York Yankees. I just don't see that happening. I think that's ludicrous. I think that's crazy. And then they're picking the Blue Jays to be 1 game behind the Rays at 85-77. And how, let me ask you this. How the heck can anyone go out there, predict the New York Yankees to win a division when they have not done anything really to help that team during the offseason. People will say, well, Larry, look at this. They added two great pitchers, Corey Kluber and Jameson Taillon. Okay, Corey Kluber has only pitched one game in 2020 and 7 games in 2019. So a lot of risk involved in there. Then Jameson Taillon, he's been injured. He didn't even pitch last year. So when you look at this Yankees starting pitching staff versus the Rays come out ahead in every single aspect of this pitching. I don't understand these Yankee, media people and all these media people kissing the Yankees' butts. Look at the Yankees starting lineup, pitching. I'm sorry. Gerrit Cole. Give Gerrit Cole credit. Probably the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. I cannot argue with that. But after that, they have no one. Who do they have? Corey Kluber. Yes, he was a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, but he's coming off shoulder surgery and only pitched 36.2 innings since 2019. Nobody knows. It's all speculation. Who the heck knows if he's going to go back to his Cy Young form? This is ridiculous. Then you got Jameson Taillon. Hasn't pitched since 2019, had his second Tommy John surgery. Okay, so what good is this guy? You don't know. It's just based on that everybody's expecting these guys to be as good as they were before their surgery. Then number 4 pitcher, Jordan Montgomery, has not pitched for a full Major League Baseball season since 2017 with Tommy John surgery. That's 3 of their 5 pitchers are having Tommy John surgery that have not pitched a full season. How the heck can you tell me this team has a legitimate chance of winning when they have no starting pitching on the New York Yankees? And then their 5th starter, they're very high on this guy. I believe you pronounce his name, Deivi Garcia. He's age 21, but he's inexperienced. He hasn't proven himself yet. This entire Yankee pitching staff, starting pitching staff, is a complete question mark. Complete question mark. Okay? Then you look at the Rays now. Look at this starting. Tyler Glass now. Everybody knows what he's capable of. Rich Hill is 41 years old. And don't be surprised as I start talking about this, if the Rays go to some openers again. They are so deep in the bullpen that they can use an opener for 1 inning, then use Hill to come in for the bulk innings. Hill is a solid pitcher. He's 41 years old, yes, but he has proven he can still pitch. Then you got Chris Archer, who has the ability to be a great pitcher, come over from Pittsburgh, going to be with Kyle Snyder. Very interested in seeing what he's doing. Ryan Yarbrough has been a winner since he's been with the Tampa Rays. Michael Walker, 60-43 career record. Low risk, high reward, all-star pitcher. Used to pitch for St. Louis, pitched for the Mets last year. Very, very talented pitcher. And then they got also Colin McHugh, who's one of the best pitchers in baseball, the past so many years. Who knows, what he's going to do. He can be used in the bullpen if the pitching staff is doing well. If someone like Archer isn't performing well, he can be used as a starter. You also got, let's not forget, Brandon McKay. And, one of our listeners goes, serious Chris Archer. You know what? We've said this tune, folks, over and over again. Serious this guy, serious that guy. Every single year, the Rays strike gold picking somebody up. You know how many people last year said Randy Rosarina? How many people say Manuel Margot? Okay, over and over and over again. But that is one of those things that, you're going to have to understand. We have a better pitching staff. Then you talk about the Yankees. I'm going to pull the Yankees up right now. Okay, when you look at the Yankees all around, okay, And I'm going to see if I can pull the Yankees depth chart up real quick for you all. Here we go. Thank you for being patient, folks. Let's go ahead and pull up the Yankees. And I want to pick up depth. There we go. That's what I look for. Forget about their pitching format. Okay, catcher. They got Gary Sanchez, okay, who's going up versus Mike Zunino and Francisco Mejia. Yes, you got to give credit to Gary Sanchez if he stays healthy. You move over to first base. You got Voit or DJ Lemieux, whoever's going to play that, okay? We got G-Man Choi. Second base is probably going to be LeMahieu. I never could say that name. We got Brandon Lau, who can hit 20 to 30 homers. Okay? Third base, Tyler Wade, maybe Urshela. Okay, we got Yandy Diaz. We got Mike Broussard. You go ahead and you look at shortstop. It's Willie Adames. They got Torres, great ball play, okay? Then in the outfield, what do they got? They got Clint Frazier, maybe. Aaron Hicks is out there. Aaron Judge. Stanton's got to be probably a DH. But the big question with the Yankees, and you look at this team, this Tampa Bay Ray team would beat the Yankees 8 out of 10 times last year. 8 out of 10 times with the same exact offensive team both teams have right now. The same exact. So what makes you think it's going to be any different this year with the same teams? The Yankees do have big question marks with Judge and Stanton, who seem to get hurt every single year. And that's something the Yankees, can't predict what's going to happen as far as that goes. But, when we look at this, and after the interview with Steve Trachsel, we'll go ahead and we'll break down the Yankees and the Rays coming up this season. But, for them to have beaten the Yankees 8 out of 10 last year, for them to have a better starting pitching team, a better bullpen, pitching and defense usually wins ball games, although the game has changed. How they can pick 88% chance Yankees winning the division over the Tampa Bay Rays, who only have an 11% chance of winning the AL East, is just ridiculous. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are about 5 minutes away from having Steve Trachsel on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you folks, those of you that, were not around, maybe weren't born, Steve Trachsel is probably what I consider one of the most underrated pitchers of our era. He played on some really, really terrible teams and still pitched well. He even pitched with our Tampa Bay Rays, and they were the Devil Rays back then, so you know how terrible at that time our Tampa Bay Rays were. He pitched with the Cubs in his early years, pitched with the New York Mets in the early 2000s, and just has done some remarkable things. I got about a little over a 3-minute video, and I want to show you probably the best game that I think Steve Trachsel has ever pitched. And I know Steve, when he comes on, may argue that he's pitched a better game, but I know it's by far the best game he's ever pitched when he was with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. And this was a game way back when he pitched with the Devil Rays versus the Boston Red Sox. And of all people he was facing, it was Pedro Martinez. And he managed to win this game by the score of 1-0. Let's go ahead. We'll watch the highlights of this game with Steve Trachsel, and then we'll go ahead and bring him on.
And now Trachsel will work to Jose Offerman, Trot Nixon, and Brian Daubach in the bottom of the first inning. And doing the catching today is John Flaherty. 2-2 pitch is waved at him, missed, strike 3. 2-1 pitch is 2-2 pitch is swung on him, missed, strike 3. They had 32,479 here last night. Another fine crowd at Fenway. 3-2 pitch is swung on him, missed, strike 3. So Trachsel strikes out the side. Offerman, Nixon, and Daubach delivers to Stanley, and there's strike 3 called over the outside corner. So that is 4 strikeouts now for Trachsel. 1-1 pitch, swing and a slow ground ball to shortstop. Charging on a stocker to glove. He throws off balance, and it is just in time. Bang, bang play at first base.
Infield, outfield, straight away for Sheets. The next one in there, called strike 3. Just a plain old sinking fastball at the knees. And a pretty good looking pitch. Sheets laid off, and he knew it was strike 3. He had no argument. Trachsel to the windup, and the 1-0, swinging a ground ball toward the middle of the diamond. Diving backhanded, stopped by Cairo. From his knees, the throw in plenty of time to McGriff for the out. A shot toward the middle of the diamond, and Cairo makes a spectacular play to his right for the second out of the inning. And reminiscent of the play that Tony Graffinino made on the last road trip in Kansas City.
Well, it was very good that he could get a strong throw from the kneeling position after he got up.
Out of the belt. Here's the pitch. Swinging a ground ball, not hit hard, to Cairo to his right. He has it. The throw to McGriff in time to get Everett, who runs well, and the inning is over. Here's the pitch to Varitek. Swing and a miss. A pitch running away. Trachsel to the belt. Here's the pitch. Swing and a high pop. Down the right field line. Out goes Cairo, the second baseman, into foul ground, and makes a one-handed grab on the move.
Here's the 1-1. Swing and a ground ball. Fielded nicely by Trachsel, and he throws to McGriff for the second out. Trachsel got him on a ground ball. Now the pitch. Swing and a high fly ball. Deep center field. Racing back is Gerald Williams. Still going back on the track. And he makes the catch for the out. On the warning track out there. Flips the ball to Dave Martinez. As that one seemed to die as it got out there, about 395 to 400 feet away.
And the pitch to Everett. Strike 3 called. A fastball to the outside corner. Well, he kept trying to get that call all through this at bat. And he gets the important one for strike 3, and Everett having words with home plate umpire Mike Victor. Here's the set of the pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. That one running away, and the change of speed for Steve Trachsel. It really just changed the look. He'd come inside on Stanley. Went away that time, and he couldn't get it. Now the set, the pitch. Swing and a ground ball towards short. Stocker has it. Up and throwing to first. In time to McGriff for the side retired. Here's the 2-2. Ground ball hit slowly to second. Stays down off the edge of the grass. Cairo, a good play. And the throw to McGriff in time for the out.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Next one by Trachsel is strike 3 called over the inside corner. Rays leading at 1-0 here in the 8th. 2-2 pitch to Everett is swung on and missed strike 3. That's 10 strikeouts in the game for Steve Trachsel. 16 strikeouts for Pedro Martinez, but Trachsel has the advantage. Looks down, now up and in to Reed Flaherty. 1-0 Rays here in the 9th. 1 out. The next one to Stanley is swung on and missed strike 3. So that's 11 strikeouts in the ball game now for Steve Trachsel. Trachsel into the windup, delivers, and it's swung on and lifted in the air to center field. Coming on is Gerald Williams. He's under it. He's got it. And say hello to a beautiful victory, Tampa Bay.
Hug on the mound from
Steve
John
Trachsel
Flaherty.
gets a hug on the mound from John Flaherty.
In his career.
One of Trachsel's
Certainly
best
from a
games in his
strikeout
career.
standpoint.
Certainly
he
from a
11
strikeout
in the game
standpoint.
to
He
set a
carries
career
11
high.
in the game.
He
to
shuts
set
out
a
the
career
Boston
high.
Red Sox.
He
And
shuts
on a
out
day
the
that
Boston
Pedro
Red Sox.
Martinez strikes
And
out
on a day
17,
that Pedro
he
Martinez
does them
strikes
better
out
by getting
17,
the win.
he does them
The
better
final
by
score,
getting the
the
win.
Rays
The
won,
final score,
and
the
Boston
Rays
nothing.
won.
Wow, what a game that was. I'll tell you what, I remember it like it was yesterday. Unbelievable game. Couldn't have picked a better game to pick when we have Steve Trachsel on. I know he appreciates that. Let's go ahead and bring him on to our Frankly Speaking studio. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in Steve Trachsel. Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, Larry. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, buddy. Hey, I picked the game. I mean, before we even get into anything else, how vivid is that game? I mean, it had to be one of, if not the best games of your career. How vivid is that game still to you?
Actually, after seeing those highlights, yeah, it's very vivid. I actually got my first win pitching against Pedro in Montreal in 1994. So we've had some pretty good matchups over our careers. But one of the biggest things I remember about that game was warming up down in the bullpen in right field. And Fenway's right there. You're surrounded by all the fans. And they were just like laughing, like, good luck. You got Pedro. You guys got no chance today. You're done. And there was a few that I couldn't tell if they were being facetious or if they were honestly wishing me true good luck or not. But yeah, it was pretty funny remembering that and then just going out there and just being locked in the entire game.
Steve, let's talk about the time of year it is. It's spring training. Actually, pitchers and catchers reported today when you were playing baseball and you had a long career. I mean, when you came to spring training, today's your first day. Were you, I mean, obviously you're not in game shape. You're not extended to go that many innings. But what type of shape should a pitcher or the average pitcher be in when he reports to spring training as far as arm strength goes?
You should be prepared to throw a bullpen at least 2 of the next 3 days. Call it 40 to 60 pitches each time. I mean, I'm taking this as a starting pitcher. Definitely cardio and leg wise, should be in really good shape. I would take the break. My break after the end of the season would end the first Monday after Thanksgiving. Then right after that, it was solid 2.5, 3 hour workouts 4 days a week up until spring training. So a lot of long toss. Probably get on the mound sometime mid-January. Give yourself a month to 3 weeks on the mound before you got to spring training and be ready to go. Now, granted, if you were trying to make the team, I would definitely be ahead of that schedule. I would be ready to pitch at least 1 inning by the time I got to spring training the first day, because you want to try to give yourself an advantage of being ahead of certain guys if it was a situation where you needed to make the team and impress some coaches.
Steve, do you think too many pitchers don't get in good enough arm shape going to spring training, and that's the reason why we see so many get hurt during spring training?
It's possible. It's possible guys come in with stuff left over from last year. It's really hard to say if the injuries are caused by spring training. I think a lot of it is definitely training related, but that could be off-season training. It could be overtraining. It could be lack of training. There's a lot of ways you can go with that. Elbows nowadays, that the surgery is just so good. If there's any kind of a question, they're going to go in there and fix it. So they don't even question that anymore. Shoulders are different, still a different story. They're really hard to come back from, but I think you really need to concentrate on shoulder strength before you get into spring training.
Now, you were drafted in 1991, and it seemed like, if I remember, now I'm going back, so I'm trying to jog my memory, but it seemed like you went through the minor leagues pretty quickly. I want to say in a couple of years, if I'm right. Now that you look back, Steve, and I know when you're in the minor leagues, your goal is to get to the major leagues. We all know that. But now that you can look back and reflect on that, do you think the Cubs brought you up too early, or in your opinion, do you think it was the right time?
Oh, no, I was definitely, maybe I could even make an argument it wasn't early enough. I came out of Long Beach State in 1991, did the College World Series, threw 150 innings there. Times have obviously changed, with starting pitchers. I threw 30, 40 innings in A-ball, went straight to instructional league, probably threw another 25 to 30 innings there, then had a couple months off and went to spring training. So I was throwing 180, 200 innings, counting the instructional leagues, in the minor leagues every year. And that year in 93, we had an unbelievable AAA team. I think our AAA team probably could have beat a lot of big league teams. We had 8 guys on that team, or maybe 9, that had World Series rings. So I was in awe of those guys. We ended up winning the championship, and I got called up with 9 other guys to Chicago. And the first thing Jim Lefevre tells me when I meet him is, "I've been effing trying to get you here for 3 months." So there was obviously guys there that wanted me there earlier. And based on how I was doing in AAA and how I'd seen other pitchers, that I considered to be in my minor league level do when they got to the big leagues, I think if I had gone up earlier, I definitely would have had some immediate success. But I wasn't on the 40-man roster, so that was a problem.
Right. Now, one of your biggest game with the Cubs was that 5-3 wild card game. Yeah. I believe you pitched 6 innings versus the San Francisco Giants. It seems like for some reason, and I know we'll get into your Mets career in a little bit, and we just talked about the game for a couple of wins versus Pedro. I don't know what it was, but it seemed like when there was big game opportunities, you cherished those moments to be in those games? And, maybe once in a while you didn't necessarily fare well, but it seems like more than none, you fared pretty well in those games.
I think part of it was just how I came up playing. I was very fortunate to play at a lot of championships and such, as a youngster, CIF championships, American Legion championships, state championships with American Legion, the College World Series, state tournaments at junior college. So pitching in those type of games, I think helped, as well as, we were in the playoffs every year in my minor leagues. So I had that exposure as well. All-star games in the minor leagues. So I think all those things kind of trained me mentally to be able to, to take the excitement and the adrenaline levels, control them, and go out and execute pitches and get, do well in those type of big games.
Now, you just talked about the All-Star game. How big of a moment was it, and what kind of honor was it for you in '96 to make the All-Star game?
It was awesome. It was completely surprising. We were kind of struggling as a team in the Cubs that year, so you just assume Sammy Sosa is going to be our representative. He's going to be our only guy. Maybe Mark Grace will squeak in there. And I remember getting that call from I believe it was Ed Lynch called me and said that I was selected by the manager. So pitchers were selected by the coaches. So that was always a nice pat on the back that other coaches had recommended you. And then to find out that I was going to be the only representative was really surprising and shocking. The game itself, I think I threw 7 pitches in the inning. So, I threw probably 60 in the bullpen to warm up because I didn't know how to warm up as a relief guy. So I basically threw my entire pregame warm up to Todd Hundley in the bullpen to go out and throw 7 pitches. And I remember it was Alex Rodriguez first pitch pop up. Sandy Alomar Jr. first pitch. I can't remember exactly what he did. And then I remember going 3-1 on Cal Ripken. And I think the first pitch I threw to Cal, I almost hit him in the head. And if you remember, that was the game or beforehand when they did the team pictures beforehand, and they were doing the team pictures. And Roberto Hernandez was wearing spikes on the metal team picture bench and slipped and broke Cal's nose. He basically threw his elbows up to keep from falling, and he broke Cal's nose before the photo. So he had his nose broken the day before, and then the first pitch I throw at him almost hits him in the temple. So I'm just 3-1. I'm like, I'm not walking him. I throw him a fastball right down the middle, and he hits an absolute missile to Ozzie Smith at short, who picked it like it was nothing. And next thing you know, boom, 7 pitches over before I even felt like it even started.
I want to talk about the 1 year in Chicago, and I know, it was Sosa versus McGwire. Probably the biggest story of my generation watching baseball. Unbelievable story going. And I know the 60-second home run, I know you gave it up, but, besides historians, do people really remember that you gave up that home run to Mark McGwire?
Baseball fans, absolutely, yes. ESPN did that, the Long Gone Summer that came out this year. I actually did the interview for that almost 2 years prior, before that documentary came out. So that brought up a lot more where people started to remember and talk about it.
Right. Now, let me ask you. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, yeah. For the most part, a lot of people, like regular people that don't follow baseball, are definitely, obviously in Chicago, St. Louis, without a doubt, they all remember. But I live in San Diego. No one knows anything. No one seems to know anything about it.
And what do you think of that moment? You were part of it. You can't do anything. It was bound to happen to someone. You just happened to be the guy that day. It doesn't make you any worse of a pitcher because you gave up to a home run to a guy like that. But
I gave up a lot of homers. I gave up a lot of homers. So for that part of it wasn't a big deal. The big thing for me was the Cubs. We were in a race to make it to the playoffs, and we really hadn't been in that kind of position. That was my 5th year in Chicago. We hadn't been in the position like that before. So that was kind of my focus, was we needed every win we could get to get into the playoffs for the first time. Obviously, we didn't want to be the guy. We actually talked about it before the series. None of the pitchers wanted to be that guy. And when the day before he hit the homer, the 61 off of Mike Morgan, just said, okay, well, we're on tomorrow. We got to win. We got to try and shut down Mark. Let's go out there and try to do both. And unfortunately, we didn't do either.
And it wasn't one of the best hit balls either. If you look at
Right.
how he hit that home run, so you could say that. But talk about what that summer was like. McGuire versus Sosa, Sosa versus McGuire. I mean, every where you went, because you were playing with Chicago, so you had the Chicago, and it's I would say Sammy lost out a little bit because of the unbelievable year that Mark had, when he did break that record himself. But what type of pandemonium was that like around the Chicago area?
I mean, on so many levels, besides, having the day games in Chicago. So you'd come in the morning, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it would kind of be like, okay, the reporters would be there, and it'd be like, hey, Mark hit one last night, so what do you think is going to happen today? And during June, our answers was, well, Sammy's probably going to hit 2 today because he hit 20 something that month, and which was just amazing. And then so Sammy would hit 1 or 2. Then after the game, it'd be like, okay, well, what do you think Mark's going to do tonight? And it was just back and forth for the whole 3-4 months that they were talking about it. But at the same time, like I said, we were in a playoff race, so Chicago was on fire for that. So it was kind of both ends where we were getting it from, okay, what's Sammy going to do today? What he was doing was amazing. What Mark was doing was amazing. And what the Cubs as a team were doing was amazing. So it was just the electricity every single day coming to the ballpark was just something that it's hard to describe and hard to recreate.
Did it affect the team in any negative way, Steve?
I wouldn't say any negative way. It was definitely a adjustment period because the amount of press. I mean,
right.
The clubhouse at Wrigley at the time was very small. There was, not much room for the team, much less alone, a dozen reporters. Now we're looking at 60. So, and they didn't even have a place to do press conferences. They actually had to turn the family room, where the wives and kids were hanging out, had to kick them out, turn that into a press conference room for a while, just because there was no space to do it. And being that, there was nowhere for a player to hide. If you were trying to go somewhere and kind of get focused prior to a game, there was really nowhere to go, whether it be a training room or the weight room, which was all right there in the clubhouse. You find yourself down in some of these little back tunnels, with the rats and stuff, just to find somewhere quiet so you can get locked in before a game.
I want to talk about going to New York, and a lot of people that don't realize, and I'm going to start from the beginning, which was a little bit rocky at the beginning, but a lot of people don't realize when you look back, and we'll talk about this in a minute, over the years that you were with the Mets, you were probably one of their most dominant pitchers during that time period. But when you first started with the Mets, a lot of people don't realize, unless they go back and they followed the Mets back then, you started a little rocky. You had some trouble. I remember there was one inning, I think you gave up, and you said you've given up a lot of home runs in your career, 4 home runs. And then they had sent you down to, I think it was Norfolk at that time, AAA. I mean, how disappointed were you? You're in the major leagues. You played with the Cubs. You had some big games. You come over. Yes, you struggled a little bit. They sent you down to AAA. I mean, in easy terms, how pissed off were you at that moment when you were sent down?
I don't know if pissed off I was definitely upset. I wasn't upset at being set down. I was upset with how I was performing because, like you said, I had all this success prior to fall back on and all this knowledge to try to figure out what the heck was going on. And those first, I guess it was 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it was, basically the worst 2 or 3 weeks I'd had in my career. I mean, I remember driving back, I was living in Connecticut in the way. It's a 35, 40-minute ride. I'd be calling my buddies out here going, dude, you need to talk me out of driving this car off the bridge or just packing up and coming home because I have no idea what's going on. I hadn't been hit that hard since like high school, so I didn't know what was happening. So when they did talk about going down, Bobby Jones had done it, I guess, a few years prior. So they had precedent on their side saying this is something we can do. And also the media in New York was something I'd never had experienced before. And obviously I was just getting demolished. And so part of it was just getting away from them. So it's go down, figure out what you're doing or not doing or whatever. Get away from the media because you need to not listen and talk to them. So hopefully clear your head. And that's what I did. I went down there. Harvey Dorfman, I got introduced to him. He's a fantastic sports psychologist, completely changed my career around, I think, after that point. And I got away from the media. And I knew I was only going to be down for 17 to 19 days. Wasn't going to be more than that. And I think it was my second or third game. I ended up throwing a no-hitter. And before even off the field, there's guys running out with cell phones saying, "Hey, all the New York media is on this cell phone. You have to do an interview right now." And I was like, "Well, I thought I was down here to not talk to the media and get away from them." And they're like, "Well, it's too late. They already put it on the big screen at Shea that you just got done throwing a no-hitter. So now you're stuck to talk with them again." So yeah, it was up the next day.
Amazing. They're your best friends when you're winning, and you know what they are when you're losing. But, let's talk about you come back up, Steve, and like you said, it's a new ball game. I mean, you're just on fire. I mean, you went one period. I know, and I'm going through your career here, but you came back, finished that year, and then in 2003, I know you had 16 wins on your way, to your 100th victory. I know you had then. You had a span there where you went 16 innings, no walks, no runs, 6 hits. After that call back up in 01, what was it for Steve Trachsel? I know you said you talked to a sports psychologist, Harvey Dorfman, but what was it? Something clicked. I mean, boom, and you became the mainstay, number one pitcher of the New York Mets.
Yeah, well, I think part of it, I think there was a situation where there was times when I was tipping my pitches, and Robbie Alomar was fantastic. He actually, before I even went down, to talk to me about that. So that was something we got a lot of video, looked at that. And working with Harvey, it was all about getting rid of all the external thoughts. And, I had this reputation and always will have of working slow. In my head, I was running through what pitch I was going to throw multiple times, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. But in my head, it was taking like fractions of a second when actually it was taking multiple seconds. So it was like, get rid of that. And it came down to literally looking at the pitch, select the pitch, select the location, execute. That became my mantra. Those things, every single pitch, selection, location, execute. And that was the biggest thing. Location, I was always a location guy. I wasn't a big power guy. So that was what I really had to do. But to focus on those 3 things just brought the game and actually made the game more simpler and kept me from getting mentally tired in games. So I was able to go longer into games and execute at a high level later in ball games.
And 2005 comes. Unfortunately, you get injured. Herniated disc, you had surgery. But talk about handling adversity and coming back. In 2006, you have 15 wins, tied for the team lead on the Mets. I believe it was with Glavine. And then you go ahead and you pitch, and we were talking about big games, Steve. Well, let's talk about another one, the NL East Division clinching game. You go 6 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 3 Ks, you win 4-0. How big of a thrill was it now? Okay, you guys sent me down 4 or 5 years ago, and now I'm pitching the game to decide the NL East, and we clinch it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely in my top 5. There's no doubt about it. And I was born in Oxnard, just up the road from Dodger Stadium. I grew up, I got chicken pox in Dodger Stadium when I was like 10. So, I went to a lot of games at Dodger Stadium. My family, my parents, all my friends were, either at that game or watching it. So to have that game in LA in front of all my family and everything was just amazing. And, it was like I said, coming back from that injury was a lot of rehab, a lot of hard work. And, I was very fortunate. I had a great doctor, had a great rehab, in New York that got me through it all. And, just unfortunately, we came up a little short that day. That was a fantastic team, probably the best team I'd ever been a part of in my entire career. Just disappointed we came up short.
Yeah, and you look at that span I was talking about earlier from 2001 till you finished up with the Mets. No New York Mets pitcher had more wins than Steve Trachsel, 66 wins. Only Tom Glavine had more starts. You had 160 starts. He had 164. And threw more innings. He threw more innings. And only Al Leiter had more strikeouts than you. I mean, when you look back at that and you see that, that's a pretty incredible, time that you had with the New York Mets.
Yeah, I had a great run. I know I have the most wins for the Cubs in the 90s and the most wins for the Mets in the 2000s. So that's, it's something I'm pretty happy about. A lot of it is being healthy. Just think if I didn't have the, blow my back out, what could have been. Obviously, having phenomenal teams in New York every single year. That was one of the things that I wanted to go to New York for, was because they put out a competitive team every year, because you have to. You're in New York, you have to go out and compete. It's the newspapers are talking between Yankees Mets, so both teams have to go out and try to put great teams together. And we did that all 6 years I was there, and just staying healthy and clearing everything out from that first 3 weeks just carried over the rest of my career.
Couple quick questions before I let you run, Steve. A lot of the rules are changing in baseball. I'll tell you right now, when I think of them, I don't like a lot of them. I don't like the extra inning rule. I know as a pitcher, I don't even have to ask you that question. And there's other, I don't like the 7-inning doubleheaders. But the one I want to ask you about is pertaining to pitching, because you mentioned about, the speed in between pitches and how you got to learn to think about, this is what I'm throwing, and then execute it. But as a pitcher, and one that played back in the 90s and early 2000s, do you like this rule that they're trying to implement, where they time pitches between pitches and saying you only have this much time to throw a pitch? Or should a pitcher be allowed, like we used to, walk around, set his pace, try to get him to hit his head a little bit, to mess him up? What is your feeling on that?
I'm the opinion that the more they try to fix the game, the more that they're kind of making it worse.
Absolutely.
I think putting a time clock on pitchers, it's a great idea, but who's in charge of the clock? Is it going to be like a home field clock where, the guy's pushing the button, a couple seconds later to start it for his home guy, maybe starts it a little earlier for the visiting guy? The biggest one for me that I don't like is luckily they're not doing it this year, at least not yet, is the DH in the National League.
Right.
Because I loved hitting. I took a lot of pride in being able to make contact, and at the very least get down a bunt at any time. I think that one of the most embarrassing things as a professional that could happen to you is to be pinch hit for, so the guy can go up there and bunt for you as a professional pitcher. So that's terrible. I despise starting an inning off with the runner at second in extra innings. This makes zero sense to me. 7-inning doubleheader, I'm kind of being talked into it, just from the number of pitchers they're able to carry. But if it's that big a deal, let them carry an extra 2 guys in the bullpen, maybe. As long as they're not able to say, we're going to carry 3 catchers then instead, or something like that. But yeah, the more they mess with the game, the worse it's getting. And the games are getting longer. They're supposed to be speeding the game up, and what average game now is 3 hours and 14 minutes or something, and they're supposed to be making them quicker, and it's just not working out.
And I grew up loving the traditional double headers in the 80s and the 90s and the 70s.
Bonus.
Right. And I loved it. I would sit there all day. I know I was watching. I was in Long Island. I'm watching the New York Mets game. Mom, leave me alone from 1 to 8. I'll sit downstairs and leave you alone. But, the other thing, Steve, and baseball is meant to be played until it's over. There shouldn't be time restraints on it, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But the one thing about the game, as you know, today's game has changed drastically. And call it whatever you want, for whatever reason. And it's losing fans. How much of this game do you think fans are being deteriorated from coming out and watching is due to the fact now that it's not the fundamentals of baseball, the hit and run, the steals, the hitting behind runners, right, the bunting, and now it seems like more like home run derby, where you either hit a home run or you strike out. How much of that part of the game that's changing is deteriorating the game?
I think it's definitely deteriorating the game, but the problem is you have to put time in to learn those things. And I think a lot of people don't want to do that when they go to the ballpark. How many people do you see even keeping score, at a ball game anymore? So they don't understand, that, hey, we're moving a guy over to do this. But now they can also say on the analytics side, here's why we don't do it. We have the math to prove that those are bad ideas. So you can kind of look at both sides. I would get rid of the shift personally, or at least make it so only two, you play somebody up the middle. They at least got to be on the proper side of the field with their position. Bring the second baseman in from shallow right field. and maybe do some stuff on the big screen for the kids to explain to them, why stealing may or may not be good, or why bunting may or may not be good, and hit and runs and how they work. I just remember, I'm a huge hockey fan, and when the Anaheim Ducks came to Anaheim, they were doing that because nobody in Anaheim knew anything about hockey. So they were doing it with the hockey, and now it's one of the, best places for hockey. I think they should do that with baseball. Do that on the, the pregame. Get the team crew, whatever, like here in San Diego with the Padres crew, get them out and have them explain to part of the kids show about how the game works or used to work or how it should work. And hopefully that brings guys back. Got to speed the game up. Got to just go back to the old stuff. Get it, 2 hours and 50 minutes. The patient level for a lot, most people is not that that long anymore. But I don't know. There's a lot of things that can be done. Problem is,
Steve,
it takes
one of those things that can be done. We saw it when we started this interview. Is you don't see pitchers go complete games anymore.
Right.
That would speed up the game a lot more if we allowed it. And I understand why, and we won't get into that topic right now. I don't want to do that. But
just get a couple of guys older than me on here and just ask them what hey, what would the game been like if you had only go 5 innings, and you'll have 3 hours of video to go. You won't be able to
it's just
they
amazing.
go berserk. Like, go talk to Jim Palmer, tell him he only had to pitch 5 innings each time he went out. He'd be pulling his hair out, going, "What are you talking about?" He doesn't get it. It's just
Nope, you're right.
And every single guy that comes in the bullpen all throws 95 with a hard slider. You're basically bringing the same guy in over and over and over.
Yeah,
that's just me.
All right, Steve. Well, listen, I want to thank you. I know I took a lot of your time tonight.
No worries.
Thank you very much for joining us on Frankly Speaking Sports. And, we wish you the best, and be safe out there.
Absolutely. Be safe, and hopefully we'll be mask-free in ballparks here very soon. I'm ready for a hot dog and a beer at a game. Can't wait.
I agree. Nothing better.
Yep.
All right, my friend. Stay safe.
Right, cheers.
That was Steve Trachsel, former Major League pitcher who also pitched for the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back right after this.
Tampa Bay, this season, was a whirlwind.
The biggest story in the entire sports world is coming to shape in real time here.
Looking forward to the opportunity to learn from the new coaches and the new players that I'll be playing with. I'm going to go out and give everything I got.
I'm hoping for an NFL season, certainly, but I don't think we're out of the woods yet.
We dip our toes into the real-world events, and this weekend sticking to sports became almost impossible to do.
This is what we got to do to win. Discipline, adaptability. This is life now.
With all that we faced this season, giving up was never an option. And while we raise the flags for many reasons, we raise them as one. We raise them for the lifers and for those who joined the fight. We raise them for the icons, the ones who showed us the way.
1, 2, 3, 5.
We raise them with swagger and for the late game daggers. And all the cannon fire along the way.
Here's Brady's pass. It's Gronkowski. Back again.
We raise them through the heartbreak because it makes the victories even sweeter.
I'm so proud of Buck Nation for staying with us. Stepping up, getting loud. Looks pretty good, don't it?
We raise them for you, Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a second Super Bowl title in franchise history.
You were there every step of the way, and together, we made history.
Listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports, ladies and gentlemen. What a great show we have had for you. I want to thank you so very much. One of the listeners has asked me a question, and before we leave, I want to go ahead and answer it. And they asked me, do you really believe that the Rays will win the AL East? My question is yes, yes, yes. I am 100% confident that, and I would bet anybody, but I'm not here to bet, but I'm just making a statement that the Rays will win the AL East. I said it last year. I was right. People thought I was full of it. Guess what? Said it about the Buccaneers this year, that they would win the Super Bowl. If you go back to the NFL preview we did months ago in August, I picked the Buccaneers to win. Not versus the team they beat, but I still picked them to win the Super Bowl. You know, I look at facts. I look at all the different information that is available to me. And when you break down this Yankees team and Rays team one by one, right now, the Rays have the better team. What wins baseball games? Now, the game has changed. The game has changed drastically. Steve Trachsel just talked about that. We can't change that, okay? It's become a home run derby because people are using the ship. He is right. People are playing. You know, the excitement is taken away from the game because there's not as many hits and there's a lot. It seems like there's more frequent outs, and that's due to the shift. Whether you take the shift away or not is another debate we can have for another time. But baseball has to do something here to change, okay? But as far as these teams go, I don't want these same people coming back to me. Oh, Larry, you were right. You were right. Okay, it's okay to be a Rays fan and don't think that they have what it takes to win the division. But I'm telling you what, the team is the same team as last year, minus 2 pitchers, Morton and Snell. For all of you people that were so high on Blake Snell, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Blake Snell. I loved him. He did a great job during his Cy Young winning year, 21-5. But if you take that year away, he was a losing pitcher. A losing pitcher. He was 21-25 with who knows what that ERA was. He was not a winning pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays. Yes, he did have a great game 6 with the controversial decision by Kevin Cash. That's one game. But other than that, he did not do much. You did not lose anything there. And don't be surprised, folks, if he doesn't do that well in San Diego. It's just a fact. You've added Rich Hill, a veteran pitcher. You added McClue. You got a guy named Strickland who's a beast that isn't afraid to go ahead on hitters and throw inside. He proves that with Bryce when he pitches against Bryce Harper. You have a team that is tough, that can win. You have a guy at first base that can hit in G-Man Choi, a guy that can hit 20 homers at second base plus in Brandon Lau. You got Willie Adames, who is proven to be one of the better defensive shortstops as well as capable of hitting 20 homers. You got third base between Brasal, Susago, and Yandy Diaz. One of those could be a DH. You got Zanino and Mahaya, maybe a question mark behind the plate. But then you got a Rosarina, Kiermaier, and Meadows in the outfield. If that team isn't good enough, it's the same team as last year that took you to the World Series. Why are you not believing in this team? Something's got to be wrong with you. They won the American League Championship with this same exact team, and their pitching staff is possibly a lot better when you add Michael Wacha into it as well. And don't be surprised if you see Archer become a 500 pitcher where he can go and, 10-10 for you. Okay? I don't know what you folks are looking at, but if you have the same exact team here in Tampa Bay versus a different team in New York that is probably worse than they were last year. People look at that pitching staff. Besides Jared Cole, there's a lot of question marks on that team. Tallison, you don't know what he's going to bring to you. Kluber, they've both been hurt. Montgomery, they've all been hurt. Nobody is proven in that starting pitching staff right now for the New York Yankees. So if the Rays won the pennant last year versus the Yankees, beat them 8 out of 10 games, and they have a better team than they did last year, and the Yankees have a worse team than they last year, how the heck can you think that the Yankees are going to win the division? It doesn't make sense. That's my point, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all so very, very much for joining us on Frankly Speaking Sports. We first of all want to thank Steve Trachsel, former Major League pitcher, pitched for the Cubs, Mets, also for the Devil Rays. We want to thank him very much. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, here on Frankly Speaking Sports, we're going to have Seattle Mariner field coordinator Jared Sandberg, who also did time with the Tampa Bay Rays, on with us tomorrow night, beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow on another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports.